Well,
Cheers. How do you say it? Delicious.
bad, indifferent.
What?
Bad,
Bad?
bad.
No, delicious.
Really?
Yes.
You can feel the honey flavor before you drink it.
It's
Yes.
very good. And then what the color? What is this? This is the... What do you call this?
This is well merely still mead. You
Still
see.
mead.
The other one is a sparkling mead, which we also make, but that's a dry mead. You see, that's for drinking with a meal.
Yes.
But this one is like a sherry. You can drink it any time of the day. you
Yes.
see.
But it's a little bit sparkling too. Not? No, just small bubbles in the glass.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
bad.
You drink this for the meals always? Mead?
But
You always drink mead for the meals?
not in the refectory. We drink either a beer, homemade beer, or cider.
Yes. But you made as well? You made a cider as well?
No, it's both. you
Mm.
see.
How do
And
you...
this I only make it in small quantities. You see, when people come, but I can offer them a drink of mead. You see.
Yes. How do you do it?
How well? Actually, the directions are in the book, not in the Swedish one. You see,
It doesn't matter.
because you're in Sweden, you are not allowed to make mead.
No?
No.
But anyway, you can tell me how to do it.
Well, it's merely, of course, quite simply. It's soft water, moorland water or rainwater, you see. And you use to every gallon, that's 4.5 liter. You use for this type of wine, we would use about 3.5 pounds. That's virtually 2 kilos, not quite 2 kilos.
For how many liters?
For 4.5 liter.
For not.
That's a gallon. You see, we reckon a gallon. You see. Now for a sparkling mead,
How long does it take then until it's
Ferment.
for the fermenting, this takes about a whole summer. You see, it would take roughly about 6 months. You see, and then you want to store it the longer. That's the most difficult part. And the making of mead is the keeping. People cannot keep it. They always taste it.
Yes, that's understandable.
There is a special kind of yeast for the fermentation.
Yes, we use a pure culture wine yeast.
Where do you get that from?
Well, we get it from, there's a research station near Bristol called Long Ashton. They specialize in fruit drinks, you see, and they provide the yeast. Now for a sparkling mead, of course, we would use only just a little more than a kilo for 4.5 liter. You see, use much less. You see, because if you used as much honey as in this mead, the bottles will burst. They will burst. There are other people coming.
They're coming. How long have you been made mead?
Oh, we have been making mead all the time, you see.
This is an old monk custom.
Oh yeah, well of course the country where mead is a national drink out there still is Poland.
Yes,
Poland,
yes. But
they're
they
well known for
use fruits in it as well, don't they?
Pardon?
They have fruit in it as well,
Yes.
not only honey.
This is not a honey.
Yes, but in Poland they
Yeah, they use different herbs and so forth.
fruits as well. And they're much sweeter there. It's not
Oh,
as
yes.
dry as this.
Yes. Well, that's the danger. Most people make the meat too sweet.
How do you avoid to get it too sweet?
By using less honey. per gallon of water.
Yeah.
But it sounds very much 2 kilo to 4.5 liter water. It sounds very much.
It sounds well, yes, but that is,
That's
it's not
how to
quite,
do it.
it's not quite 2 kilos, you see.
Mm.
But then of course you want, this type of mead you want to let mature in wood for about 5 years. This is more than 5 years old, you see.
How does it taste when it's young then? When it's just
Well,
fermented?
the other type, it's quite different, you see. It's a dry, like a dry wine, you see.
When it's just fermented?
Yes, like a dry wine.
At what temperature do you keep it?
Well, for fermentation now, this would be ideal. You want a temperature between 65 and 75 Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you want, because if the temperature goes down below 60, then the fermentation stops. You see, the yeast requires a certain temperature.
So it should fermentate even after the first season.
Yes,
it
but when
keeps
the after
fermentating.
fermentation sets in, there's no after fermentation here.
No?
But in a light wine you get the after fermentation, and that causes the carbonic acid gas, which is
Yes.
imprisoned in the bottle.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's the same process as champagne. All the sparkling wines are made by the same process.
Do you? Which kind of honey do you use? Only from?
This is heather honey.
Yes, it's only
The
heather
other
you
one,
use.
the sparkling mead, that's clover honey.
Mhm.
This gives the better mead in the case of a sweet wine. And the clover gives a better mead, sparkling mead. Yeah, yeah.
Does the taste change when it's?
Well, I can bring up a bottle and after you have drank this.
Okay.
The water, do you take this water from the River Dart here?
No, we go up to the moor near there. We fetch the water from the brook at the
Yes.
bottom of the mating station.
Yes.
That little brook.
Ah, yes, you see, to get the pure moorland water.
It's very soft. Okay, thank you.
I must go in the other. Now this is very nice if it was chilled. Yeah. But, well,
Brother Adam, this pedigree of yours,
yes,
you got a pedigree here for each season. Here is 1980.
yes,
And I think it's interesting to look here. We got Buckfast, Anatolian, Sahariensis, Cretan, Greek, Carnolian, Omani.
yes,
And then the drones and their relationships that
yes,
year.
yes.
And then, for instance, with the Buckfast breeder, there are the breeder queens, 1980. And here is number 391.
Yes.
And that's the one we got eggs in Sweden from this
Oh,
queen.
yes, well, that has been universally, I mean, everywhere. In fact, been successful. In fact, only a few days ago, I got a request from the Philippines, from
No?
a beekeeper there, and he wanted daughters of the 391.
Yes. And here we can follow her backwards
Yes,
and see that 1977.
yes.
No, that means, what does this
She
77
was, this
stand for?
This queen was born in 1977.
Yes?
Yes.
Excuse me. Could you ask him to explain this first, then instead of you doing it?
Yes, please, that's what I'm aiming at. That you explain what is written here.
Yes. Well, this is of course the ancestors of this 391. You see, those are the ancestors going back to the grandparents, the great-grandparents, and still further back.
Yes? And what does this stand for?
361, that was an Anatolian combination. You see, that's why there is the A in front of the number, so that I at once know what connections, what relations they have.
And she was mated with
366. I
the
think
pure Buckfast.
Yeah, well, I think you have 366.
We have.
Or you had. That's going
And-
back 366, of course, is going back a long way.
And she was born 74.
Yes.
And before that, there was Anatolian too?
Yes, and actually an Anatolian and an Egyptian combination,
Yes.
you see. But there again, you see, you wouldn't be able to say, where the Egyptian influence came in. I can't tell, you see, because I know this particular Egyptian combination, you see. And of course, you must remember, this pedigree is essentially for my use. It's not for general public. Sinop, that is the place where I first was in Asia Minor in 1953, and I obtained the best queens from that area.
Where is Sinop situated?
Sinop is the most northerly on the Black Sea coast. There is a sort of peninsula jutting into the Black Sea.
In Turkey.
Yes, and that is the most northerly point of Asia Minor. It's not really a peninsula, it's just a triangle jutting into the Black Sea.
What were those bees like when you were there in Sinop? The queens that you came here to
Well,
Buckfast with?
merely to look at, they weren't very different, you say, to the others. But in actual results, you see, they proved the most successful strain I found in the whole of Turkey, in the whole of Asia Minor.
Berätta lite grann, jag kan fråga om möjligt, hur långt de här går bakåt sen då? Lite grann bara om dem överhuvudtaget. Hur har byggt upp det här?
Nej, det förstår jag inte.
Varför har ni gjort det och hur långt bak det går och sånt där? De här pedigrees.
Yes. How far backwards can you follow the ancestors?
Well, you see, in this case now, for instance, that's another line. You see, that's this one, A166. They originated this line from a queen we collected Acastamino,
Where is that?
which is about, say it's about 200 miles, well, not more, it's even less, south of Sinop. It's in the mountains, in the what is it called, that mountain range? That's a very high mountain range along the Black Sea coast, you see, going right into Russia. And this Castamino is in that mountain range, or rather on the southern fringe. Now, you say that's another line. This is also but that is from a beekeeper named Balzi, and he lived in the area of Ankara. You see,
Yeah.
that's the central.
Yes, But what I meant was that on this paper showing the pedigree for 1980, you can follow backwards 4 generations. And
Yes.
here you are at the year 1972.
Yes.
And then you look up
yes.
72.
Yeah, you look up 72. Yeah.
And how far backwards can you come?
I go backwards,